It's heartening to see so many of you all in this room, old friends, new, as they come together to explore yet another chapter of our maximum city, Mumbai. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for braving the rain. Everything has gone from red to yellow and orange and back. And thanks for being here. We have many of our friends also I logged into our Zoom session, but it's extra special for you to be here, so thank you for that. My name is Asad Lalji. I'm the CEO of Avid Learning. Through one of our flagship series, Uncovering Urban Legacies, we have been asking a simple yet deeply layered question: what really makes Mumbai, Mumbai? Each edition of this series has offered unique insights. We began with the diasporic community that shaped the city through language, cuisine, culture, and food. Next, we traveled through the historic precincts where stories etched into balconies, stone facades, and street names. Most recently, we turned our attention to everyday icons that quietly define Mumbai's mood and memory. The focus has varied, but the mission remains the same: to decode Bombay's DNA, not through grand narratives alone, but through the tangible, the familiar, and often overlooked. In the first 3 episodes of this latest iteration's Icons of Bombay, we re-examined taxis, public clocks, statues, wells, dabbawalas, Irani cafes, fountains, BST buses, and street food. This evening, we turn another page in the city's biography and we ask, what is common to the thunder of a local train rolling into Churchgate packed with lives in motion? The crisp crack of leather on willow at the Oval Maidan, where futures are forged in sunlight and sweat, and the quiet stillness of forts like Bandra and Worli, standing guard over time itself. And that brings me to the task at hand. Avid Learning, in collaboration with the National Gallery of Modern Art Mumbai and the Kalagora Association, presents Uncovering Urban Legacies, Icons of Bombay, Local Trains, Cricket Maidans and Forts. A special thank you to Ms. Nidhi Chaudhary, Director of the NGMA, and Deputy Curator Shruti Das for hosting us. This partnership with Avid Learning dates back to 2011, when we have done over 50 programs together. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our panel of experts: author, rail historian and newsman Rajendra B. Aklekar, Sportswriter, columnist and commentator Ayaz Memon, Associate Professor, Department of History and Vice Principal Arts, Sophia College for Women, Dr. Rashna Poncha. And our moderator for the evening, Assistant Editor, The Times of India, Richa, Pinto. Ooh. Let's get ready to explore stories behind some of our favorite icons. Once again, thank you all for being here despite the weather. Over to you, Richa.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for braving the rain and making it. We have a lovely audience today, some very familiar faces. There's someone telling me hi from there, my students. Today I'll dive straight into today's topic, where we'll be looking at 3 of the most iconic emblems of the city. I think the poster back on the screen talks for itself: the local trains, the cricket maidans, and the forts of the city. Each of these emblems, in some way or the other, I feel have touched our lives in many, many ways, whether it's the local trains, which for many of us here are an inseparable part of our lives. The countless evenings many of us might have spent at the cricket maidans, or the forts of Mumbai, whether they are the Bandra Fort, which was restored recently, or the Mahim Fort, or the Worli Fort. So taking it ahead, I'm going to start with the topic close to many of our hearts, which is the local trains. And Rajendra, we are going to come to you first. Can you tell us about the whole transformation of the local trains from the colonial era to what we see today? You know, the local trains have seen it all, from it being Bombay to the Mumbai we see today. So what is it that makes it such an inseparable part of all our lives?
The changes have been, I will say, extraordinary. What started as an experimental line when nobody wanted to get into it, it was called Rakshasa, when it was conceived first. In the very first week, we had about 15 in the first 15 days. It started on 16th of April. 18th April, the passenger services started. By 30th of April, we had about 18,000 passengers getting into it. 18 to 21,000. In a month, it was about 40,000. And in a year, by the end of 1853, 65,000. So passengers increased from the very first day. And the first train was just between Bombay and Thane. So that was the original suburban commute of Mumbai. After that, the trains went on expanding, and then, but this particular chunk of Bombay to Thane, the route, it remained always full of capacity. And as offices shifted to South Bombay, these trains became more and more important as suburbs spread across. In 1925, they were electrified, and then the story goes on. That's how the local train shaped. The Western Railway came in around 1864. So we had two lines in the city, and which no other city has, two different railway zones.
I think Rajendra, you might want to refer to the screen.
This I had given for the introduction. This is the very first train picture. The one on the top is not the first train. It's the most used picture, but it is the Harris Bridge, Pune. That was the oldest available picture. This is the actual picture. This is the actual Thane Bridge. So I wanted to just clear that confusion, because every single person uses that as the first train. So I thought I'll put it on record by using it. This is the Thane Bridge in two parts with a steel girder in between. It still remains that way. Now we can't see it, but if you go down under it, you can still see the steel and the stone. These are the things I documented. What I've done is, when I was in school, I was at Matunga King George School. I used to go to and stay at Kurla. So I used to travel by trains. And when I realized that what I was traveling is the first train of the country, I was sure that there was something lying around of the first train. So I started to walk. I decided I'll take a walk proper route. I took proper permissions, and I walked across the stretch from Bombay to Thane entirely. It took me about 3-4 years. I used to go to a particular location, from that spot to the next spot. So I documented lots of things in the process. So the first thing is that old signal cabin, and none of this is available now. All of it is gone. There was a bridge under Bhandup station, water bridge. These are the old relics of Bhandup station gone away. That's the old bicolor thing. These are the old tracks, and many of this, what happened was, whatever I saved and documented, I used to give it to the authorities. So that's how that museum of CSMT has come up. So all those small things which I started the mission are in that museum. You can go and see at the station. This is one thing that we have been doing also. All these old bridges which are being demolished, they have the original plaques on it. So I have been trying to save all the plaques, and almost most of them are in safe custody now. So this is the Belasis Road. The Parel one is also documented, Hancock Bridge and the Karnak Bridge. And all of them will be put back in place on the bridge once the new bridge comes up. These are all the books that I was asked to, all the books so far I have written. It's about trains, buses and trams, about 11 of them.
Thank you, Rajendra. I think that was lovely. We are coming to the next icon of today. That's the cricket Maidans. And Ayaz, who better than you to talk about it? So can you tell us how these, cherished open spaces came to be the cricketing meccas?
Thanks, Richa. I think I'll put this whole, the evening in perspective for the Maidans.
Please do. In fact, you can refer to the slides.
I will, but I just thought I've written something which I'll just read out, which will give you an idea of what our subject is. So during England's tour of India in 2021, Michael Atherton, everybody may have heard of his name if you follow cricket. He's a very respected former England captain, currently a commentator with BBC and Sky and whatever else, and obviously an Indophile because he loves India. And he wrote a feature for the Times London when he was here, where he wrote a fascinating sentence which caught my attention at that point in time. He said it's a commercial powerhouse, a successful brand, and of course it has the history, but Lord's is not the home of cricket. For a former England captain to diminish the importance of Lord's, referred to as the Mecca of cricket, was just or not short of heresy. But Atherton has a compelling argument. South Mumbai is about as close as you get to the heart and soul of the game, he explains in the feature. A mile or two square from the Pakka Gymkhanas at the north end of Marine Drive to the old Maidan, that inland, which jut inland from the southern tip of it at Nariman Point, an area of that teems with cricketing history, has produced some of the greatest players and remains home to the ordinary cricketer, no matter how wealthy or privileged or how poor or unconnected. The old Maidan, stretching from across more than 20 acres in South Mumbai, plays host to games between players of all ages and abilities. Now, Atherton's praise for Mumbai is effusive, but obviously that's because he's not native. He's not a native like us. We know cricket and the Maidans of Mumbai, they are very familiar to us. For him, it was something strange because he was a discovery of Mumbai and India. The sound of bat and ball, of the screaming househats, all kinds of umpiring signals, which only those who inhabit the universe of cricket understand, has resonated here for centuries. Cricket is played not just in the Maidans of South Mumbai, of which Atherton is enamored, but in grounds big and small, minuscule across the city, and of course there's Shivaji Park at Dadar, which is seen as perhaps the nursery of Indian cricket. To play cricket in Mumbai does not make Maidans or grounds mandatory. In a teeming metropolis cramped for space, nothing and everything works. Gullies, alleys, residential buildings, compounds. In fact, every unoccupied inch provides opportunity to play the game. I'm not going to read all of it, just about one more para. Yeah. Cities, this is my observation, cities are not just conglomeration of soulless infrastructure, rather about people who live in it and the social milieu or ethos they create over a period of time, through their hopes, dreams, despairs, ambitions, endeavors. Urbanization is a fascinatingly complex, assimilative, experimental process. From this churn, over decades or even longer, emerge distinctive attributes that come to define a city. Jazz music, for instance, which has its roots in the struggle of black African Americans for political and social identity, is intrinsic to New Orleans. Skyscrapers, symptomatic of high voltage 20th century American capitalism, is about New York City. London's black cabs and underground railway, the elitist fashion capital that is Paris. And when you think of Mumbai, cricket comes instantly to mind and vice versa. So that's why Mumbai and cricket go hand in hand.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts also on it. We will come to you, Rashna, now about forts in Bombay. Of course you can, please do. But I'll ask my question first. Of coming to forts of Mumbai, we would like to know from you, how did the positioning of each of these forts shape the defense network of the city? If you can go into the details of it a little bit.
So, to answer your question,
yes,
and to do a little bit of historical background, because everybody is only talking about Worli and Mahim and Bandra. There are many others, so let's do a little bit of history. So the city of Bombay as it stands today still has some remnants of the bygone era of the 16th and 17th centuries when defensive forts were a necessity. Some of these can still be found, some of them have disappeared. These can be found dotted across today's Greater Mumbai as well as in nearby Thane. And there were many others that were outside this region, but I'm concentrating on this. And this, as you can see, is just a map of the Bombay city. It has not moved on to Salsette. So we can divide them up into Portuguese forts, a lot of which then fell to the Marathas in the 1730s, and British forts. So Vasai, Salsette, and the islands of Bombay were under the Sultanate of Gujarat in the 1500s. And the last Sultan of Gujarat, named Bahadur Shah, signed a treaty with the Portuguese. He was very worried about the Mughal power that was growing in the north. Humayun was moving further and further south. And so he signed a treaty with the Portuguese by which he gave up the island of Bassein and all its rights and territories. So this included the island of Salsette, as well as the islands that later became Bombay. And at Bassein, the Portuguese built the large fort of Bassein on the Ulhas River. And from here they ruled what was called the Estado na Norte, the estates of the north, till 1739. The islands of Bombay were not touched. They really didn't bother about the islands of Bombay. And so what they did, because they needed money, was they gave out the islands to various Portuguese aristocratic nobility. The most famous of these was a chap called Garcia da Horta, I don't know why I said Norta, who built a manor house at the southeastern tip of our 8-shaped island of Bombay. Okay, so right here, if you can see what says Bombay Castle, that's where the old manor house was. Now we all know the story. Charles II of England married the Infanta Catherine of Braganza in 1661, and the islands passed into the hands of the British under the treaty. But when the first British ships came here to take control of the islands, suddenly the Portuguese here decided they were not going to give them up. If the British wanted them, they had some value. Finally, in 1665, Humphrey Cook managed to take possession of some of the islands. And in 1668, you have the East India Company setting up over here. They wanted the harbor. The whole idea was the harbor. This one here. What is our Thana Creek? If you're at Gateway of India, that's the harbor. So Garcia de Horta's manor house was fortified. It became what is called Bombay Castle. And small forts and batteries were set up on the islands. These are often called outforts in the writings of the time. And so you have them in this entire circle. So you have Bombay Castle, Dongri Fort, Mazgaon, Sivri, Sion, Rewa or Dharavi, Mahim, and Worli. Bandra Fort is in another color because that's a Portuguese fort. So British forts on this side, Portuguese on that side. The larger fort of Bombay, we have a very large fort of Bombay. I don't know how many people realize that we had this humongous fort in Bombay down here, right here. And this was built in 1715. Close to it, you had a smaller Fort George. This is what the large fort of Bombay looked like. You had the smaller Fort George on the side, right here. That was constructed in 1770. So the question that we're now asking also is what happened to these forts? The large fort of Bombay disappeared. Dongri and Mazgaon disappeared. Most of Fort George and Bandra Fort have disappeared. Sivri, Mahim, and Worli are in relatively decent shape. Sion is in complete shambles. Baseen Fort has had some restoration by the ASI. Godbandar in Thane is in ruins. The Thane Fort itself is now a jail. Mud Fort is under the Air Force. And the only fort in a really good condition is Bombay Castle, now called INS Angre and under the Indian Navy. So this fort, if you look at it, to place it in perspective, it actually runs like this, north to south. This part is exactly where VT is, and the lower one is literally just outside here, near Wellington Fountain. That's how large the fort was. If you walked along these walls, that's Mahatma Gandhi Road. So when you're walking on Mahatma Gandhi Road now, please remember, you're walking on the fort walls. Okay.
Very interesting, huh?
Sorry, can I just say, that's what's left of them. Okay.
Rashna, if I may ask you a little bit on how did these, forts shape the defense network of the city?
So the idea is that because we are an island, the threat was going to come from the sea.
Okay.
So if I can just go back. So you had to have a defensive purpose. Okay. This is the important part. This is the Thane Creek. This is where the bay is. This is the dock. Okay. That has to be protected. It's all about commerce more than anything else. And the forts come up because first the British are worried about the Portuguese to the north. The Dutch are attacking, the French are attacking. So these smaller forts come up at Mahim and Worli on the eastern side, so that they can, on the western side, sorry, so that you can see ships coming up towards the main island of Bombay. You did also have a small battery on what is now Malabar Hill, Walkeshwar, because there were pirate attacks. Pirates from the Malabar kept coming and attacking, so you stopped them from that area. And then you had forts along this entire creek because you didn't want the Portuguese coming down from there. So the whole situation was based around this. Every time they felt there is need, we need to have some sort of defensive structure, and if England was willing to give the money, they built a small fort. They put a small battery there. They had some small guns there. A small garrison would be there. And then again, it would sort of die out until the next problem started. So that's the whole idea.
You also mentioned that many of these are in ruins. A small follow-up to that. So, if I may ask you, which is that one fort that we have no, there is nothing left of it now?
Bombay Fort,
Bombay
Dongri,
Fort.
Mazgaon.
Okay.
absolutely nothing left.
Absolutely nothing
Yeah.
left. Thank you for those thoughts on the forts in Mumbai. Rajendra, I'm coming back to you. So for coming back to the local trains, for many the local trains today, we spend the most productive years of our life traveling by these local trains. You have reported vastly on them. If you could share a few anecdotes about something interesting that you came across, whether from your readers or whether while you were researching, for your many books that you've written on everyday commuter life. I'm sure there has to be people forge lifelong friendships on these during these local train travels. Over to you.
There are very interesting stories that I came across while researching. Like, for example, every station has a unique story. At Dockyard Station, for example, there was a Belvedere house on the top, where wife of a English East India Company lady used to stay. She was estranged from her husband, and she actually eloped down with a rope to in a boat which was waiting down with Commander John Clark. He was in England, and she went away, and that spot today is Dockyard Station, and there's a plaque mentioning all this about the station if you go there. She was called Eliza Draper. Yeah. So at Bhandup, if you go, it was a place where people used to go to drink alcohol. So there are certain signages at every station. Like there's a well outside Bhandup station which is very popular, and there's a people tree inside it now. So the well has become into a tree. At Masjid Bandar station, if you go, that was the old native lines initially, because that was outside the city near VT station. So even if you go today, there are cannons lying there, and many of them are deified. They have become temples, which are like garlanded and all. So these are all nuggets. At every station you have such a story, and all of them documented in my book.
But Rajendra, I want to ask you specifically about commuters who take these trains for, we have people who come from from really far off places. They spend hours traveling. In fact, I just was telling someone that somebody was stranded yesterday in the train owing to heavy rains for close to 6 hours. What is it that, what is life for them? I mean, can you share a little more about?
I have an interesting case about commuters who used to come from Nasik all the way. They used to work at Mantralaya somewhere, so they used to come and go together in Panchavati Express. And they used to do it for several years. And as a sense of belonging, all of them contributed money and brought a train hostess for their train. And then they had reserved seats. They used to get their own cushions. They used to get. So this was happening in Panchavati Express. And at Nasik, they built a rail bhavan of their own, where all these passengers were given identity cards and memberships. So this is just out of commuting daily. So they become life members of this train, in a way.
So we have, in fact, I covered the BMC. I have also heard such stories where people come from really far off places.
Nasik, Pune, yes.
Pune, yeah. I was just going to say about Pune. Ayaz, over to you. What are some of the defining traits or values you believe these Maidans have instilled in some of the most seasoned cricketers of the country?
That's a monumental question. But I thought I'll just, there are some slides there. So I've used this as a symbol of gully cricket. In my opinion and my understanding of the game and how it's grown in Bombay certainly, and perhaps now all over the country, you go from gully cricket to Maidan cricket, to club cricket, to the stadiums where you play first class cricket and test cricket. And this is a metaphor for gully cricket. You can see the squalor. It's almost like playing in a shanty. And I've used this slide very deliberately because it shows a girl playing cricket, which was maybe even 30, 40 years back unthinkable. But now women's cricket has also become very powerful, very strong. It's growing exponentially. And this slide captures the essence of gully cricket, where the narrowness of the space available, and you use all kinds of equipment to play the stumps, or I don't know where they mark the boundaries or how they've got the fielders around. We don't know, but that's how it is for everybody who's grown up in the city. And wherever you have played, at whatever time you have been growing up, whichever decade, whichever era, the concept or this facet of gully cricket has never changed. So if you have a Gavaskar growing up in Dadar, or Sachin Tendulkar growing up in Bandra East, they would be hemmed in by narrow spaces. They would always be living in this fear that I might break a glass pane or a window and I'll get smacked by the auntie who will steal my ball, not give it back to me, hurl a few abuses. Unless, of course, your network and your PR is so good in your neighborhood that you can get away with it.
I don't think PR was a thing back then.
So this is from gully you move to Maidan, and Maidan cricket is really the very essential integral link to cricket wherever it's played in the country, and more so in Bombay. Because why more so in Bombay? Because Bombay has always been so cramped for space. The minute you got out of the gullies and came to the Maidans, it was a different world, certainly for those playing the game and certainly also for those watching. And this gives you a very good idea of what, when youngsters get onto the Maidan, what kind of situation they play in. I mean, there are, even now you can see maybe 3 or 4 matches being played simultaneously in less than maybe 1,000 square feet. So one match is fine leg, is the other match is third man or some such thing, and you have to always be careful that you are not hit because you are caught unawares. But such is the passion for the game that risk of injury and fear, and they are all playing with a seasoned ball, they are not playing with a tennis ball or a rubber ball. That is not the overriding concern. The overriding concern is either if I am a bowler I must get a wicket, if I am a batsman I must get runs, and if I am a fielder I must take a catch. And then there's something to shout home about, and you can boast and brag. So this is the growth. Why is Maidan cricket so important? And I will, maybe subsequently when Richa asks me some other question, I'll bring that in, that from Maidan cricket you derive your credentials like nothing else. So in gully cricket you may be very good, but if you're not good enough, intrinsically you don't have that little bit of talent, which is so crucial for any sports person to make it to the top level. All of us desire to be a Tendulkar or a Shubman Gill. Very few can, because intrinsically you have to have something, and then that is nurtured, groomed, mentored. One very essential step in the mentoring and the growth, it just opens up a whole new vista and a new world, is Maidan cricket in Bombay. And Maidan cricket at a certain age group, I've chosen these 2 guys, they are household names, we all know who they are, Vinod Kambli and Sachin Tendulkar. This is right after they had put up their record 664 run partnership, world record partnership in the season of 1987-88. One has gone on, now he's called the god of cricket, the other guy fell on hard times, hopefully he'll come out of his issues. But it is at this level, of course they are prodigies. Not all of them may show the mettle, the caliber and the character to play at the highest level at the age of 15, 14, 16. They may show glimpses of that talent. They may show potential. But this guy, a year later he was playing for India, a year and a half later, Sachin Tendulkar. So this is what Maidan cricket and schools cricket in Bombay. I think in Mumbai we need to understand that almost every slide that you will see here shows you an institution. Gully cricket is also institutionalized. There is not a single cricketer from Mumbai who's reached the international level who will say, I have gained nothing, I've never played gully cricket in my life. It's not possible. For the shortage of space, for the way we are brought up, for the cramped city that it is, for the possibilities that it all, because who can afford, even to play in a Maidan, and some of us here may have played, at this level you have to book a pitch. In my days when I played, at whatever level I could, the pitch would cost $12 to hire the pitch. A season ball would cost 8 rupees, a bat would cost 25, 30 rupees. I'm going back 40, 50 years, maybe a little more. But all these were expenses, and if you pay that kind of money, then you better make it pay for you. So Vinod Kambli used to travel from Kanjur Marg to Shivaji Park, where he was mentored by Ramakant Aklekar. Sachin Tendulkar came from Bandra East to Dadar. You might think it's not too far, Shivaji Park, but to become what he had to, he had to leave home and stay with his aunt. And he lived in Shivaji Park with his aunt and hung a ball from the ceiling there and practiced at home when everybody was asleep, trying not to make too much of a noise. I'm just saying that this is how, the growth of cricketers takes place. This is the next aspect of what I call Maidan cricket, which a step further, you get into club cricket. Mumbai, from schools cricket to club cricket, which is where Dadar Union Club is one of the most famous, iconic cricket clubs in Bombay. The rivalry with Shivaji Park Gymkhana is like the Battle of the Roses in English county cricket between Yorkshire and Lancashire, perhaps even more intense. So this is where you start honing your skills. You have grown a little in stature, in physical stature, and certainly in terms of credentials, because you've made a mark at the junior level, school level, maybe early college level, and then the club spots you. And it's defined by locality. Dadar Union, needless to say, is placed in Dadar. Shivaji Park Gymkhana is Shivaji Park, and so on. And therefore, Mumbai's cricket culture is built around gully cricket in terms of infra, Maidan cricket, then subsequently club cricket, which I'll show you. This is an iconic picture also. This is from the first ever test match played in India, 1933-34, India versus England, and this is Colonel C.K. Naidu and Lala Amarnath. Lala Amarnath playing his first test match, making a century on debut, and the place you see in the background is the Bombay Gymkhana. So this is the venue of India's first test match. So you go from gully cricket to schools cricket in the Maidans to club cricket in the Maidan, and then you get onto a turf which is giving you international exposure. And then of course we've got the Wankhede Stadium and the Brabourne Stadium before that. This is another club. This is the PJ Hindu Gymkhana. So when the clubs came, the club culture, the schools culture, I'll talk a little about that a little later, just to give you an idea where I am headed on this talk. Thank you.
Thank
One
you.
thing,
That was
the
wonderful,
Maidans were
actually.
also a line of defense.
Yes.
The Maidans were also a line of defense by the British. The open spaces kept as a firing range. So in a way, connecting both of them.
They were all part of the esplanade.
In
What
a
we see
way,
in South
connecting
Mumbai,
both of them.
Azad Maidan.
There is a
Oval
connection
Maidan,
between
Oval Maidan.
the forts and the Maidans, in
So
some way.
your Oval Maidan, they would have played cricket then also, but you pulled everything off it
was a
because
defense.
you needed the clear field of fire from the big Bombay fort to
Just
the
to give
sea.
you a nugget, the first ever recorded match played in Mumbai is in 1797. It's between Military 11 versus Island 11. So you need not guess who played the match. There were no non-English people allowed to play that match. They could only watch. And that, since watching over the last 240 years or whatever, we've become so good that we are number one now. But that's a different
What
story.
was the venue for that?
That is also in the Esplanade
On the
where
Esplanade
Azad Maidan,
only.
where Azad Maidan is. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Azad Maidan is about 25 acres.
Right.
And it's obviously now known more also for protests and rallies and political demos
Metro.
and stuff like
And
that.
there's a train under it.
Metro.
And
I was
Metro.
going to
There's a
come
train
to
under
that, yeah.
But cricket has been integral to our understanding of Azad and Cross and Oval Maidan.
There's an underground train that intersects the fort now. Completely.
Yes.
Yeah, for which there was a lot of protest also, I think, for the space being taken over. Rashna, we come to you again. So, in a rapidly changing, city space, how do you think, you spoke about a lot of forts, but there are some still which, like the one Bandra, which was restored recently, and then there are plans being made to restore others, like Mahim, Worli. I have written about it, reported about it myself. How do you think that these forts still, do you think that Mumbaikars are still able to connect to them in any way in the current form?
I think actually they are connecting to it more today than they were doing 10 or 20 years ago. People didn't know these existed. If you looked at Mahim, most people didn't even know it stood over there because it's once you have the coastal road and the sea link that people actually saw Worli Fort and Mahim Fort. Even today, if I took somebody there and said, show me Mahim Fort, they wouldn't be able to identify it so easily because it was covered in shanties and things like that. So there is a greater idea of them today. Small groups like Khaki, others are taking people around. There are lots of reports. So BMC has tried, the Directorate of Archaeology is trying to salvage them. There's talk of, I think you also had reported, a sound and light show that will be there, but nothing has happened so far. Worli is the only one that got some sort of restoration, and there's lights put up.
Light, yeah.
But getting to Worli from the mainland is difficult.
True.
You have to go through the entire Koliwada to come there, and they're not very receptive.
It's not publicly accessible.
So you can't get there easily. Mahim had people living in it. They had ration cards, they had Aadhaar cards for that address. Now the BMC claims they have...
Yes, very true,
very
in
much.
fact.
Yeah, you couldn't go into Mahim. They would just stand out there. You couldn't enter the gate at all. You still can't actually, though the BMC
No,
swears
they've evacuated.
that they've evacuated them. But nothing much has happened after that because the evacuation plan, because I went back looking at things, it was a 2022 article. And not much has happened since then.
No, the process is still on to evacuate them. But so you said that, people are now more able to connect to these forts. I couldn't go off the topic without asking you about the recent Bandra fort restoration. So there was a lot of concern, especially from local citizens, as far as the manner in which the fort was restored. Also because the fort stands surrounded by a huge public park which is accessible to many. So how do you look at something like this, the recent restoration that was done?
So the restoration of Bandra has been quite contentious because people are very angry that it now no longer looks the way it did. You see, the idea of a fort you always have with the big stones showing. But a lot of forts were plastered over. So this, the conservation agency insists that they checked and rechecked and it was plastered, and so that's why they've done this. By itself, I don't like the way it looks. I mean, they have quite mangled it according to me, but then I'm not an archaeologist. They need it to be more sensitive to the entire process. And I know that I'm talking about a fort that, everybody can't actually go and see, and that's the INS Angre. So INS Angre, which was the old Bombay castle, you can't really get in there, but this is what it would look like from Google Earth. Please don't tell the Navy. They're very, very sticky about this. But it was completely restored by Kirtida Unwala, and they have done a fabulous job, a really fabulous job. You can run a few Google searches, you'll get a few pictures. And so when you embark on this sensitively, you use the historical information that we do have, you can actually make a difference. So that's what we're looking forward to for Mahim. That's what we're looking forward to for Dharavi. Dharavi is in the middle of the slums. You will not be able to find it. Very few people can actually find it. If you find it, you can't get into it. And the last I heard was there was a very enterprising character who was allowing you to enter it on a rather rickety ladder where you paid him and you managed to get inside. It's a complete mess, but it needs to be restored. It needs to be protected, otherwise one day it will just collapse.
But never fails to surprise you, huh? Someone taking you on a ladder to see a fort.
Yeah, inside, to get into the fort, And that fort actually is the only one that, I don't have a picture. Yeah, that is Dharavi. There, look, that's inside it, with their clothes hanging to dry. People live everywhere, It's a space, nobody's entering it. It's your house now.
If I may ask you, we spoke of two examples here. One was Mahim, where you have people who've gone inside and living in it. And mind you, these are like residents who've lived, people who've lived there for decades.
For decades,
If we are talking of someone who's had a ration card and all, they've lived there. Because I know for a fact that BMC has, given them an alternate accommodation. So what is it that actually gets them to, go and live inside a fort?
They live everywhere. People lived in the caves in Jogeshwari also. They also had ration cards.
They are the inhabitants of Bombay.
Yeah. So, there's a space, they'll go and live. Yeah, but the point, that's what the question you asked me was, are people worried? But now there is this thing.
These are crumbling. Like, isn't there no concern?
In fact, Kurush Dalal always says this, that the buildings inside the Mahim fort is what is keeping it standing. You take them out, probably collapse the walls. Because the walls take a solid beating from the sea.
I'm sure. Thank you, Rashna, for that. Rajendra, I'm coming back to you. The Western and Central Railways carry around 75 lakh passengers daily. We've seen over the last 2 decades, there have been close to, as per news reports, close to 51,000 deaths that have taken place. So, as someone who's covered the beat per se for so long, do you think there are some systematic failures that we've failed to address, that leads to incidents like what we saw recently, which was the Mumbai tragedy? We saw, people lose their lives hanging out of the train. So what, according to you, are those gaps that lie unaddressed for years and years?
See, we had a good tram network till 1964. It was shut down, completely uprooted. After that, we built nothing. We depended on these buses, 3,000 buses, and people kept on growing. So all the load has come on the trains. They got saturated, and now the lifeline is completely saturated. They have no space to run more trains, because unless you build more tracks, which you can't do in a city. So what has happened is, they are looking at development, they are looking at, but the land acquisition is not happening, because there are somebody's houses, there are somebody's playgrounds are there. Now what they've done is, they are planning on a mode which will be an air conditioned sort of a transport, which will have closed doors, which will keep on falling off people. So they have floated a tender, so that's how they are going to upgrade the suburban railway. And these 51,000 people that die, most of them, half of these are natural deaths, which happen in railway premises. Because they happen in railway premises, they are counted as railway deaths. So the figure of actually falling off trains and people hitting poles, it's half of the statistics. That's what I feel.
But Rajendra, I'm sure there has to be, over the years, this trend of, peak hour rush, like especially if you look at people who come from far off places, they often complain that between till 10 o'clock, at least 8 to 10, it's absolutely impossible to get into a local train. This has just built on year it has just built on. Do you think there's any solution to tackle this thing? Of course, you are saying that there is no alternate mode of transportation, public transportation.
The metros are coming up until the network comes up completely. Right now we have 3 lines functional. There are 4 more lines to be coming, and then they'll go parallel to the train, then some load may go off. What is happening is, everybody wants to reach Bombay, the heart of city, at 10 o'clock in the morning. So that is leading to a problem. We can't have staggered timings, because we can't do it in Mantralaya practically. Somebody is waiting at 10 o'clock, my officer aayega, baat karega. So everybody wants to reach at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So the private offices may be needing to step in, and they could maybe change the timings and distribute the crowd. So that could be of help, some help.
Do you think the metros are going to ease the burden?
Metros will give a better connectivity for the east-west thing, because north-south we have trains, and all the offices are now shifting to the heart of the city, in the center. So the metros will help the new crowd and the new offices that are coming up.
But cost factor, looking at, local trains are still the most affordable form of transportation.
Yeah.
Do you see people really making that switch?
See, what happens is, local trains are at, if you see per kilometer, it's 11 paise per kilometer, which is the cheapest in the world, and the trains offer you fastest this thing. So 11 paise is like nothing, and now the metro tickets are minimum fare is rupees 10. So rupees 10 I guess is affordable. So people will make that shift, and we see the new metros, the line 3 and the line 2 and 7, they have been getting good numbers.
So there is hope for the city.
There is hope. I'm looking at it. I'm waiting for the network to come up, the entire network, and there will be a shift and a hope.
Thank you, Rajendra. Coming back to you, Ayaz. So in the past decade at least, the city Maidans have suffered from neglect, encroachment. What do you think the future holds for them? For each of them, like especially the large popular ones which have seen the city completely?
So, it's a travesty, isn't it, that the Maidans, open space is getting encroached, because ultimately, I don't think that the powers that we have really understood the need and the usefulness or the value and the worth of open spaces in at least in Indian conditions. I think our view of urbanization is very myopic and across the country. But Mumbai, some city like Mumbai, which already was so vertical till about has been for the last maybe 25, 30 years, much ahead of the other cities, is just cast a kind of a shadow, if I might say so, over the spaces that used to abound earlier and are now just kind of straitjacketed or hemmed in by big vertical structures which allow very little access for playgrounds and stuff like that. So why are playgrounds necessary? I don't want to get into the the psychological aspect of it beyond a point, socio-psychological aspect. But I think that everybody knows that for living well, you don't need 5,000 square feet apartments necessarily. You have 5,000 square feet open spaces that will add more value to your life. I think that the idea of sports itself in India is very vastly diminished or misunderstood. It's not just about getting in, wearing your pads, going out and playing. An open space allows you to go out there and stroll, reflect, come to terms with yourself, with your, sports is about competition, but it's also about camaraderie. It's about building of character. I think that looked at very holistically, we need to have far more attention paid to what we are doing with our open spaces. I think that we are neglecting it to a point of, to my personal dismay, but I think to a fairly dangerous level. We are a country of 140 crores. There is a huge amount of population pressure. It's not, you can't pluck out things, open spaces from somewhere and say, okay, now there is lots of space. We don't have the landmass of the US or Australia or, even some countries like Russia and so on and so forth. We have to deal with our population mass. But how do we do it effectively, sensibly, and correctly, astutely, is really the question. I think that this is where we are lagging behind. I know we have shifted a little from cricket and cricket Maidans, but I thought that I just wanted to express that the need for having open spaces needs to be understood. It's a very grave issue, and it needs to be understood thoroughly as we go on this, hurtling down this rapid urbanization kind of mindset.
But we are having, I want to ask you this. So we are having a large open space parcel coming up along the Mumbai coastal road, as you know. Yeah. So do you think there's some scope for Maidans there?
Maidans, I'm not sure. I mean, if they are, how big they will be. But open spaces in whichever form they come is always
Why
welcome.
do you say Maidans, no?
So, it is the coastal road. The creation of the Maidan in the dimension, and the management of the Maidans also becomes very important. And what are the Maidans going to be used for? So, I haven't got the blueprint, what is going to happen. So, for instance, just outside Breach Candy Club and Breach Candy Hospital, there's talk of doing some kind of forestation there, which is great if it happens. Now, how it's maintained, ultimately it's also your lungs that you are destroying. It's not just the mangroves. The more you take away your open spaces and build cement concrete structures, is somewhere some massive loss is happening.
True, but we've not really. Point well taken that you can't just have cricket Maidans in a city just like this when you have such an ever-growing population. But I don't see there has been any increase or any attempt also made. Like, for instance, if we look at the recent plans for the eastern seafront that we are talking about, the Portland, again, there is no talk about increasing getting another Azad Maidan or another Oval Maidan or another Shivaji Park. I don't think they're 100-year-old Maidans.
Richa, what is happening in fact is that forget about having another Azad Maidan or a Cross Maidan or Oval Maidan. That's, in my opinion, to have another one is a pipe dream. We don't have playgrounds for schools. All our schools are in, matchbox rooms, and there is no open space. So if you're studying in a school nearby a Maidan, you're lucky. If you're not, then you don't have access to an open space. So it's not that, you can, as I said, you can't create open space out of nothing, but what you've got, you can protect well and cleverly and smartly. I think we are also nationally suffering from it's a conundrum that we are on this rapid infrastructure development where sports stadia is concerned. Bombay has 5 grounds. 5 cricket grounds. You know, there's 1KD, there's CCI, there's Bombay Gym, there's DY Patil, there's RCF ground which has been used for first class cricket.
Chembur, yeah.
So you've got all, you know, multiple stadiums which actually you don't need. You can actually share the open space you've got, share it well, rather than creating more structures. So open space does not mean just creating stadia. What use is that stadia going to be? Otherwise it will become a white elephant.
True, thank you.
May I just interject here with the Maidans thing that you're talking about, that even the esplanade, when the fort was brought down, would have been built over. They had planned to build over it. They needed space for buildings. And it was the British government in England that said, no, you need open spaces and land, and that's why our 4 Maidans are there today.
Oh, thank you for that addition, actually. Very interesting. But I'm also coming back to you. So, coming back to the whole restoration bit of forts that we are seeing, in fact, there are plans also for restoring Mahim. You know, do you see, what will you say are the risks involved as far as misguided restoration is concerned?
One is you're damaging the building. That's the first one. And that's the biggest risk, because these buildings the forts are in a bad shape. And they're, you know, particularly Mahim has been battered by the waves non-stop. Every monsoon, it gets battered further. So yes, it's going to have to be taken care of very carefully. Secondly, the vandalism that comes in, how many people will, you know, I mean, Worli Fort, there is a temple inside, there is a gymnasium inside. Yeah, all right, and this is a restored ASI fort. All these forts are under the Directorate of Archaeology and Museums, and they find it very difficult to manage it. It costs a lot of money. Let's be honest, the bottom line is the money. You have to pay for all these people to be moved out. You have to pay to restore it. You have to pay to protect it. You have to pay for lighting. You have to pay for the history part to be written there. And how many people are going to pay money to go in and see the little Burli and little Mahim fort? So there is...
You have to pay for bad roads also, to repair bad roads.
Yeah, well, that I mean, I will not get into. That's a
So
totally
you have
different
to
story.
pay everywhere if you have to maintain
but
good...
how do you manage it here? You know, I mean, they have the funding, but it becomes very difficult. So, I mean, they restored Fort George, which is where the Directorate of Archaeology and Museums has their own office. And that has had a little bit of a restoration, but even that has already started, you know, crumbling away.
Yeah, but you know, largely looking, you when you say risk, when you said the cost is high, and that's why, you know, you are not seeing them coming forth. But will you say that there are any particular risk involved? Like, you know, for instance, what I mean here is what we saw in case of the Bandra project. The restoration that was done there. For a lot of people who went there back, because also the whole area was shut, and so when locals went back to that area, they didn't find it like it was, right? They felt that it wasn't the original building, the fort building that they saw. So even whether it is the authorities or the architects involved, would you say that there are these checkpoints that they should keep in mind when they are restoring?
Well, you have to have the conservation checkpoints, that they're already there. The Directorate of Archaeology also already has them. It's not like they don't. My bigger worry is that they may finally say they don't have the funds for it, and like Delhi has done, they may decide bring in private players. And then it becomes whose property, who's going to take care of it. You know, there is an entirely different set of questions that we have to start asking. So, to my mind, that is the greater risk, that what will happen to them, if you don't conserve them, Dharavi and Sion will disappear. That there's no two ways about it. They will disappear.
In fact, Sion Fort stands amidst a public garden.
Yes.
There is a lovely public garden around the fort, and it's used by a lot of regular morning walkers and...
but the fort itself is in a bad shape. Incidentally, ASI's offices are just there in that garden.
Right.
Yeah. So nobody's, you know, that
but
fort
I must tell you, there are
requires
plans to even restore that.
Yes, but there are plans. There have been plans for this for quite a long time, but nothing has happened.
Hopefully, yeah.
Either they're hoping they will just collapse and fall one day, and they will rebuild and make
Till
some
we
really
all-
ugly-looking structure in this
No,
place.
till we have a next talk on it, I hope the plans materialize. Coming to you, Rajendra, coming back to the local trains, please tell us what are the upgrades that we can look forward to as far as local trains are concerned in the coming few months. No, months, tell us.
The infra projects take time. So basically what they're doing now is right now, they are increasing tracks. From Churchgate to Borivali we have 4 tracks, so they're making them 6. From Virar to Dahanu we had just 2 tracks, which was limiting all the traffic coming into Bombay, limiting all the number of trains. So they're making into 4 tracks, which is going to happen by 27. And to do this, you have lots of permissions to come in, the forest one, and everything is in place. They've begun work actually now. On this side also, basically what has happened, the entry to Bombay has been a bottleneck. So no outstation trains want to enter Bombay because these local trains have been, every morning if you go to the control room of railways, you have about 17 outstation trains from various parts of the country waiting to enter Mumbai because suburban peak hour chal raha hai. So वो आ नहीं सकते. So they are detained outside. So this they have to end by having an express train project, which they are doing, expanding the tracks. That is one thing. For suburban people, they just last week sanctioned the AC local train plan, which means that you have closed door trains. But then there's a fight over the fares. People from the regular trains don't want the AC train because the fares are a bit higher, so that debate is still on. But tenders are in place. The trains should start coming by next year or so.
When are we having full AC travel?
Full AC travel, right now we have 14 trains in Bombay, 7 on Central, 7 on West, and these are dummy trains. We are designing new trains for Bombay with luggage compartments for the dabbawalas and everything, which will start coming by 27, 28, I guess.
But coming to the AC travel that we are seeing, a lot of times you have, commuters complain that, they feel that there is a need for, what happens is when there is an AC train that comes, for instance, a passenger who has a regular train ticket is not able to take it. So do you think that there can be brought a system wherein a regular train travel passenger can compensate the fare and use it?
They don't have, this could be done if there were conductors inside the train, like the buses had. But right now they don't have a mechanism. What they're trying to do is they're trying to equalize both the fares, but for which political will is required. So they made a proposal, they sent it to the ministry, let's see. And both the political parties come together, they'll at least regularize the fares of both normal and AC trains.
This should happen, na? Center
Yeah, because
center and state now has the
same government. The BST buses had AC buses, but then they had similar fares. There was not much of a difference. So why should trains have it? Double engine is not making a difference.
I'll come to Ayaz back. So can you tell us, with this whole commercial pressure on open spaces, what do you think the future holds for these cricketing Maidans?
Cricketing Maidans as they exist in Mumbai are not under too much duress. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, you got Wankhede and you got Brabourne Stadium a stone's throw away from each other. Did you really need 2 stadia? It was a battle of egos and a political battle which led to the formation of another stadium. Otherwise,
that's a very interesting story,
CCI
actually.
was good enough, And then you have RCF in Chembur hosting a first-class match, maybe half a dozen of them, and now it's used only for corporate matches and some other sports. It's not an international venue. Likewise, DY Patil on and off, which is a new Bombay.
Correct.
So Colombo has 4 or 5 stadiums, also cricket stadiums. There's Lords and Oval in London, which are not like CCI and Brabourne, but in the same city. There are cities which have 2 stadiums. Ahmedabad has now the Narendra Modi Stadium, which is 1 lakh capacity, 1,20,000, biggest in the world. The point is that creating infrastructure is a function of economic might and what you want to achieve. But creating open spaces for improving the quality of life of denizens of that city is an altogether different game. And I think that's where the issue
but
is.
But in case of Bombay, largely these both have thrived together. Open spaces, doubling up as cricketing Maidan. For instance, how many of us see someone taking a walk along Shivaji Park and somebody playing cricket inside, like so many rather playing? So
no, because
it has
Shivaji Park, people walk around the periphery. They
correct,
walk from morning till night.
Correct.
So, I mean, they don't necessarily have to walk in the middle of the ground. When it's occupied by cricket matches or players, then they move out, they walk on the periphery. The walk, timings are adjusted, by common sense. Who goes and who does what at what time of the day. I think really, the issue in Bombay, I mean, just to kind of come back to the cricket Maidans of Bombay and what it's meant for Bombay. Obviously, the Maidans of Bombay have contributed to cricket becoming so big in the city, and therefore Bombay being known as the nursery of Indian cricket. Why has that happened? I'll just kind of briefly run you through it. The first match, as I mentioned, 1797, between Islands 11 versus Military 11. It's the first club that was formed in Bombay was the Orient Club. That's when the Parsis got interested in the game or involved with the game. The Britishers were there, the Parsis got involved with them for social equity, for business access, for power, for prestige and whatever else. 1848, a decade before the Great Indian Mutiny, it started cricket in right earnest in Mumbai and from the Maidans, from the Esplanade. And the Orient Club died in 1850, 2 years later. But the Parsis were not going to give up so easily. So Young Zoroastrians Club started, which exists even till now, till today. From 1850, 1851, 52, whenever, in that period. And that period of 100 years, from 1850, 1848 to 1948, is where Maidan cricket contributes to making Mumbai cricket what it is, with the Parsis intertwined with the British, with all kinds of people now coming to Bombay, because Bombay was becoming the mercantile center of the country. There was the opium trade, the natural harbour, the rail services that started, and real estate development. The money started coming in. The Marwadis and the Gujaratis came to do business from here. And therefore, they got people from all over the country to come and work, or people migrated here for work. And they started getting engaged in cricket because they saw the benefits of access through cricket to the powers that be, whether it is the Parsis, those who owned industry or businesses, and therefore also to the colonial masters. So all kinds of things happened. Just to cut along, 100 years in like 1 minute, more than 100 years. I've got the dates here, so I'll just run you through the. So 1848 Orient Club, 1850, 1875. So the formation of the Gymkhanas, Bombay Gymkhana, Parsi Gymkhana, is. So when the Bombay Gymkhana became a venue for a lot of sporting activities, and the Parsis also started becoming voluble, vocal about saying, hey, what about us, telling the Goras. And they fought for it, and they got the Parsi Gymkhana. And seeing the Parsi Gymkhana come up and the permission given, the Hindus said, what about us? Then the Muslims said, what about us? So you had all the Gymkhanas coming up, which became venues for sport, and especially for cricket, because cricket by now was becoming the big sport. And what took place at this point in time, why Mumbai is the nursery of cricket, is it got regimented and constructed, structured extremely well. Schools cricket, Giles Shield in 1901, I think, yes. Harris Shield, 1906. The triangular, Mumbai triangular, where Europeans played Parsis and then later the Hindus, 1912. But schools cricket became, and club cricket, that's when your Time Shield started in 1930. The Kanga League started in 1948. So schools cricket, officially structured, very regimented, allowing access for young cricketers, budding cricketers to come in, improve, showcase their talent, improve the talent, and take the sport ahead. And therefore Mumbai became the bastion, because no other city in this country at that point in time, perhaps even now, had that kind of structural efficiency. And you take any great cricketer from Mumbai who has played here, whether it's a Vijay Merchant or a Sunil Gavaskar, Ajit Wadekar, Sachin Tendulkar, they have gone through this route. Schools cricket, those who didn't go beyond schools cricket into college, didn't play college, like Sachin Tendulkar and Vinod Kambli. But they got into club cricket, and they got into first class cricket very early. And they started playing for Bombay, and they started playing for India, because they were prodigies. By the way, Rohit Sharma, Ravi Shastri, Dilip Vengsarkar, they are all products of Schools cricket, college cricket, club cricket, state cricket, national cricket. That's been the ladder which they have climbed. And therefore, Mumbai has remained paramount. I mean, you know, the number of... Mumbai has won the most Ranji Trophy titles. Mumbai has the most registered clubs in the country, cricket clubs. The most registered players, men and women now. Mumbai is where the BCCI is headquartered. Mumbai Indians has won the IPL most times, 5 times. The first ever women's IPL was won by Mumbai Indians, the women's section. So Mumbai's dominance in the sport is not... the way we lead our lives, it's very competitive, it's hard, it's brutal. I mentioned to you, Vinod Kamli coming from Kanjur Marg to Shivaji Park, it's a 2-hour journey. To report at the ground at 5:36 in the morning, the guy is taking the first train out.
But if I may ask you one thing, since you spoke so much about Mumbai and it being the nursery for cricket, what do you think are the traits that these Maidans probably instilled in these cricketers, these seasoned names that we've known?
I think they make them hardy. They make like there's a phrase in cricket, say, put a value on your wicket. So when you get a chance to bat, you don't throw your wicket away. There is it's a pejorative term which is used nowadays. Bombay ka cricketer, khadus cricketer. Khadus, otherwise if you look at it literally, it will mean a mean character. You know, the guy who has no warmth or empathy in him. In a sense, it's right. You know, you're khadus because you come there, like I mentioned, Vinod Kamli. If he's dismissed in the first ball, first over, he's come 2.5 hours, he will not get a chance to bat that day. He goes back, next morning he comes, he does that 3-4 times, his coach will say, find another coach. Sachin Tendulkar's coach used to keep, instead of the bails, he used to keep coins. And reward him if he didn't lose his wicket. You bat out your 1 hour, 2 hours, you take that money. And then he will go to the next ground or the next pitch and play there, and that's how, you know, incentive for him. The point is that it's a competitive society, it's a competitive city that we live in. You know, no quarters given, none asked for. And that kind of drills into you. It doesn't mean that you're a nasty fellow. It just means that you value your time and your effort. And that comes through in Mumbai cricket.
Thank you. That was a lot in detail. I have a few questions for each of you all. They are going to be very rapid and the answers have to be also very rapid. I'm not calling it a rapid fire. I'm going to start with you, Rashna. First, tell us which is the most underrated fort in Mumbai.
The Bombay fort that you don't see anymore. Nobody knows it was there.
Thank you to you for today telling the larger audience about it. What is the most surprising discovery you've made during your research on Mumbai sports?
Oh God, there were so many.
No,
so
tell
I
us
have
one.
too much time. Okay. I'm not
The
going to
most
talk about-
surprising discovery. Can I put it that way?
No, too many things. Can I talk about something that's amazing about the
Please,
Bombay
I think
fort?
he said it
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, come on.
Okay. It doesn't exist anymore, but yet the collective conscious of Bombay knows it's there. You go to Fort area, you go to Church Gate, there's Bazaar Gate, there's Apollo Bandar. Those are the names of the gates actually that stood there at one time. Yeah. Nobody knows when you're standing in there that this was the fort. So I think that's really, every time somebody discovers this and I tell them this, there's a thrill that they get. You can see it. So I think that's fantastic.
Coming to you, Rajendra, tell us which station has the most fascinating history? The most fascinating history?
The Bombay Victoria Terminus, Mumbai CSMT. It was a wooden structure, then it built a heritage building on acquired land, and like it has the most fascinating stories. It was built by an Indian, designed by a Britisher, so lots of interesting stories there. It has a mosque inside, which still there. There's dargah inside. There was the original dargah there on which this station was built, and the dargah is maintained inside the station. It's still there today.
And which one would you say after that?
After that, I will say it was Kolaba, but it's no longer there. Dockyard has a good story. All the stations have good stories. If you see my book.
If you could, since our politicians want to rename every railway station, you have to tell us if you could rename one local train station, which would it be and why?
I would undo all the renamings that have happened. So
No, you're not allowed
go
to
back to the
answer.
British name. Go back to the British names. Because every British name has a
Yeah,
story.
no, you're not answering my question. No, you're not getting away with that. Tell us which is the one station that you would want to rename.
One station that I would like to rename. It's a very difficult one.
Someone said Mumbai Central?
Mumbai Central.
No, you tell us what you. Then audience question
No,
is coming.
basically there was a cry for renaming one of the stations in Bombay after Jagannath Shankar Seth. He was one of the directors of the. So one of the stations could be renamed, but not like for Mumbai Central. You could rename the outstation terminus, keeping the Mumbai Central name original the local station. So you could have both the names, and give credit to the director also.
That sounds like the Anderson Tendulkar trophy. Both names.
Both names. दोनों रखो, दो station अलग है तो.
So, if there is one image or anecdote that best encapsulates the spirit of Bombay through your icon, which is the local trains, what would it be and why?
The yesterday's rains. If Western Railway is down, the city is shut. That is what people said. So that has been the standard because it is a straight ride. It doesn't go close to the Mitti, so it keeps on floating. If it's shut, then there's severe flooding in the city. It shuts.
That means Mumbai is.
Yes, yes.
Ayaz, coming to you, what is your favorite Maidan in the city to watch cricket on?
Maidan. I would say Azad Maidan.
Why?
Because I played there. Also the Oval Maidan. So these Maidans, I mean, apart from the stadium, I played at the 1K Day also and the Bombay Gym and CCI, some journalist matches and whatever else. But playing at the Maidan has a different texture and a feel to it. And when you're doing it at a certain age in your formative years. So I don't have all brilliant memories of it. I remember once going for nets for St. Xavier's College when I just joined there. And I think I was dismissed second or third ball. And the coach said, thank you and come next year. But
Chai by the Maidan or Vada Pav? No, both answers not allowed here.
No, but Maidan, affiliation is stronger. So chai by the Maidan.
Chai by the Maidan. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Rajendra. If you had to pick an image, memory or anecdote that best encapsulates your icon, what would it be and why?
I think in recent times, obviously, it's that picture of Vinod Kambli and Sachin Tendulkar. One 14 and a half years old, the other 15 and a half, putting India on the global stage, so to speak, because of their world record stand, and not just ending there, going out to become. So I divide in my own mind the eras of cricket into pre-Tendulkar and post-Tendulkar. So post-Tendulkar Indian cricket, before that, young mums and dads would go and say, tell their kids, don't waste too much time, go and study. ये करना है, वो करना है, जो भी है, don't spend time on the field. Post-Tendulkar, young mums and dads are at Shivaji Park or Azad Maidan or whatever. They go to the coach and say, कुछ भी हो जाए, इसको Tendulkar बना दो. That's the kind of effect he's had on the Indian psyche. And I think he's just kind of changed. Look at the richness of Indian cricket talent, not just in Mumbai, but across the country. There is a whole, dynamic at play, which has come post-Tendulkar.
Thank you. Rashna, I think we forgot that question with you. If you could answer, if you had to pick one image, memory or anecdote that best encapsulates your icon, what would it be and why?
So, anecdote, I'll tell you. That, and I'm going back to the Bombay Fort, which is my favorite.
We figured that by now, actually.
I know. I'm so sorry, guys. So sorry. Before it was brought down, the Bombay Fort actually never saw any fire. It never was part of any action at any given time. They kept building it larger and larger because they were worried somebody was going to come and attack, but it never saw anything. And then all of a sudden they decided, oh my God, so much space in the center of town, taking away from building land, and they brought the whole thing down. But you know what it was used for before that? People went out, open space, walks along the walls. There were weddings on the walls. There are descriptions of the weddings on the walls that they would light it up and it was very fairy-like, we are told. So, I would have liked to have seen one of those walls. It's really sad. When they broke it down, they broke down every single bit of it. Not one plaque. I mean, the only plaque is there still in the museum now. It's come out of their storage. They could have kept the gate. Flora Fountain is standing there. It could have been the gate. So I really feel that would have made a difference to Bombay. It would have made a difference to the youth
Like
of
the
the
plaques
city.
that Rajendra has shown us of all the bridges,
Yeah.
Hancock to Bellises.
Yeah.
Correct. Can we take some audience questions? Show of hands, anyone? Yeah, Nikhil Desai there.
Yeah, very good discussion. Thank you, all of you. I want to ask the madam, you said it is very costly to maintain these forts. Cannot the corporate help by taking up, adopting one fort? They can, there is Mukesh Ambani and all Mumbai. So is it possible? Second is, I want to tell Richa that you also are connected with this because there was a time shield matches were played in Azad Maidan, and all the corporates will take part, Tata and everybody, and there were groups, top group and ABCDE something.
I think you spoke
Ti-
briefly about it.
Times of India is also connected with Maidans.
Yeah, Rashna.
Yeah, so you're absolutely correct. The BMC, the ASI, the Directorate of Archaeology keep mulling over this, whether you can bring in corporate sponsors. So sponsorship is, they had talked about it, and Worli, I think, had a little bit, but it hasn't really gone any further from that. That's the problem. So I personally think that it's a bit dangerous. It's a double-edged sword, actually having corporate sponsorship. But if that's the only way to save them, then yes, let's move on with that. Yeah.
I think we have one more coming from there. Yeah, please.
So you said the cricket is not a home of Lord. Then what is it? Which cricket is the Lord then?
No. I said that Michael Atherton, who's an England captain, former England captain, he said that Lords is not the home of cricket, having watched cricket being played in Bombay in the Maidans. So I was trying to juxtapose what he said with the importance now the world gives to cricket in India and certainly in Mumbai. Because he came here and he did a whole trek of all the Maidans in South Mumbai, and he also went to Shivaji Park just to see the passion for the game in India. And therefore he said, this is the most prized real estate for cricket in the world, more than Lords.
Thank you. We have one more question. That's it. Yeah, I'm
Madam,
coming.
this is for you. I've been to Shivri Fort, and it's crumbling except the part of the Dargah.
So you're talking about science.
So that's why I feel that the private enterprise has to come.
Yeah, it would have to, but it's still also going to be very, very expensive. So what are the private enterprises getting out of it? Particularly Shivri Fort, to restore that is going to be exceedingly expensive. It's in such a bad shape. So they're not, unless they bring in money on CSR, then that's the only way. The only way to do it now is to get CSR. But I don't know if CSR allows for that.
It's national archaeological
The
sites.
problem is that these being British forts, we don't see it like that.
There's one more from this side, from this gentleman here. Yes, sir, please. Your name?
Yeah, I.C. Rao. My question to Mr. Ayaz Menon is that you said, where will the more Maidans come from? They can come from the 1,000 acres between Sivri and Railroad. And just last week, the Port Trust has issued a notice for expression of interest for plots to be given for various activities. And in that, there is the only football ground which was there is part of a plot which is being sold for 30 years, and I cannot see there's any objection to this coming from anywhere. Why not?
So, I mean, there are commercial interests at play and whatever else. But I think also what is happening, in the case of development, I mean, I have been critical and I see that as one of the big problems. But, I mean, you go to building societies now, on the 13th or 16th or 20th floor, you will have jogging tracks, you will have swimming pools, you have open spaces on the, somewhere where the structure is. I mean, these are all vertical buildings, but they provide open spaces. So that seems to be a solution that they are finding.
Podium gardens.
Podium gardens. Whether it's a substitute, direct substitute for an open space like a Maidan is always debatable.
No, never. Because here is already a ground which is now being...
Yeah, so,
There's no objection from the population of Bombay, which I cannot understand. It's the money market.
One addition.
Commercialization. We have one more question
Yeah,
here. Yes, sir. Your name?
Vivek Toshniwal here. So my question regarding the question notes are about trains. So Mumbai has welcomed the AC trains. It is running very successfully on the western lines. The only question is the issue is going on this the rush in the AC trains are more than what is in the local. So it is not we are paying the fees and we are purchasing the passes, but it is more than hectic than that. So what efforts, sir, let me complete. So what efforts and what steps are you taking to equalize this and to travel in a better way, sir?
Good question.
That is there. That remains there.
Catch-22 situation.
Right now we have 14 trains. We are getting more trains now, temporarily. At the same cost. And now what has happened is all the cities have started getting trains. There is a AC local in Chennai, there is a AC local in Kolkata. So they're getting more trains, and now so we'll soon have more AC trains. But the one which is being designed for Bombay is coming a bit late.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for one more thing, for the porters thing, I have given an objection to them, sir, that their premise has lots of old trains. Their premise has lots of very old trains, old wagons which are like century old. So I have given an appeal to save them, some of them at least.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
See, we have a common.
That's another whole conversation. Yeah. I think we'll just wrap this one and you all can talk.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. You'll have been a lovely audience. Some wonderful questions coming. Some final words from Asad. Please be seated.
Yeah, don't run away. I'm not going to scare you all. But thank you for a very exciting conversation. I think it's going in very different directions. But Rashna, if the Bombay fort was there, the Aklekar Association would have maintained it. And Rajendra, there was this one anecdote where where the train stops used to be, all the theatres used to come. So putting my Bombay Opera House hat on, that's something we should even think about. And Ayaz, you're talking about where are the open spaces today? In the Times I read that they're opening a new museum in BKC and a state archaeological. Why, does it really need more construction in BKC? How are you going to get in and out? I mean, that could have been a nice Maidan. But on that happy note, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Richa, for moderating this so well. Thank you to our hosts, Ms. Nidhi and Shruti, and the Aklekar Association, and to our audience for being here in such large numbers. Just one quick announcement. We were actually supposed to have another session tomorrow out here, the multi-materials and makers of Bauhaus architecture. Because of the weather conditions and some of our panelists were going to be flying in, we've actually moved that to the 3rd of September. We have about 9 programs lined up for September, so just check out our website or stalk us on social media for what that is. But thank you very much for being here and have a wonderful evening. Thank you to the panel.